Close your eyes and picture Cleopatra. You're probably seeing Elizabeth Taylor draped in gold, kohl-lined eyes, gazing seductively at the camera. Or perhaps you imagine an exotic Egyptian beauty emerging from a rolled carpet to seduce Julius Caesar. This image has been burned into our collective consciousness through countless films, paintings, and history books. But here's the unsettling truth. Almost everything about that image is fabricated. The real Cleopatra bears little resemblance to the legend we've inherited. For over 2,000 years, we've been fed a carefully constructed lie, a propaganda campaign so successful that it rewrote history itself. The woman we're about to reveal wasn't the person you learned about in school. Let's start with the most shocking revelation. Cleopatra wasn't ethnically Egyptian at all. She was Greek. Specifically, she was Macedonian Greek, descended from Ptolemy, one of Alexander the Great's generals who seized control of Egypt after Alexander's death in 323 BCE. The Ptolemaic dynasty ruled Egypt for nearly 3 centuries, but they never integrated with the local population. They spoke Greek, practiced Greek customs, and maintained Greek bloodlines through generations of intermarriage, often between siblings. Cleopatra was born in 69 BCE in Alexandria, a Greek city in Egypt. In fact, she was the first ruler of her dynasty in 300 years who bothered to learn the Egyptian language. This Greek heritage wasn't a minor detail, it fundamentally shaped who she was. Now for another bombshell, Cleopatra probably wasn't beautiful by conventional standards. Ancient Roman coins bearing her profile show a woman with a prominent nose, a protruding chin, and rather plain features. These weren't caricatures meant to insult her. Coins were official state propaganda designed to project power. Even Plutarch, the ancient historian, wrote that her beauty was not incomparable or striking to look upon. So, how did she become history's ultimate seductress? The answer lies in what Plutarch wrote next. Her conversation was irresistible, and her presence, combined with her charm and wit, was genuinely captivating. Cleopatra's power wasn't physical, it was intellectual. She conquered through intelligence, not appearance. But acknowledging a woman's intellect threatened Rome's masculine pride. Cleopatra's true weapon was her mind, particularly her extraordinary gift for languages. Ancient sources confirm she spoke at least 9 languages fluently: Greek, Egyptian, Aramaic, Ethiopian, Median, Parthian, Hebrew, Syriac, and possibly Latin. In the ancient Mediterranean world, where diplomacy depended on personal relationships and trade required direct communication, this ability gave her unprecedented diplomatic power. She could negotiate directly with foreign ambassadors without interpreters, a massive strategic advantage that allowed her to build alliances and gather intelligence firsthand. She could read philosophical texts in their original languages and discuss literature with visiting scholars. This wasn't just impressive. It was revolutionary for any ruler, male or female. Yet this aspect of Cleopatra's genius is rarely mentioned in popular accounts of her life. At 18 years old, Cleopatra inherited a kingdom in crisis. Egypt was bankrupt, torn by civil war, and caught between warring Roman factions that could crush it at any moment. Her father had left the treasury depleted and the military weakened. Most teenage rulers would have been quickly deposed or become puppets of Rome. Instead, Cleopatra played the most dangerous political game in ancient history, and nearly won. She understood that Egypt's survival depended on aligning with the right Roman leader. When Julius Caesar arrived in Alexandria, pursuing his rival Pompey, Cleopatra made her famous entrance. Forget the romantic carpet story. This was calculated political theater. She needed Caesar to recognize her as Egypt's legitimate ruler and secure his military backing against her brother. Cleopatra's relationship with Julius Caesar was strategic brilliance, not a romance novel. Caesar was 52, she was 21. He controlled the most powerful military force in the Mediterranean. She ruled the wealthiest kingdom. Together, they formed an alliance that benefited both parties immensely. Cleopatra secured military support to defeat her brother and solidify her rule. Caesar gained Egypt's vast wealth and grain supplies to fund his political ambitions in Rome. Their son, Caesarion, represented a potential dynasty that could unite East and West. When Cleopatra followed Caesar to Rome, she wasn't chasing love, she was conducting diplomacy. She established Egypt's presence in the capital of the ancient world, hosted influential Romans, and observed the political machinery firsthand. Everything she did served Egypt's interests. After Caesar's assassination in 44 BCE, Cleopatra aligned with Mark Antony, one of Rome's new triumvirate leaders. This partnership terrified Rome's political establishment, particularly Octavian, Caesar's heir. Octavian understood he couldn't simply declare war on a fellow Roman, so he did something more insidious. He waged war on Cleopatra's reputation instead. Roman propaganda portrayed Antony as a once great general who had been enslaved by an exotic foreign seductress. Cleopatra became the dangerous Eastern queen, using witchcraft and sexuality to destroy Roman virtue. Octavian's poets and speechwriters created an image of Cleopatra as everything Rome feared: feminine power, foreign influence, and Eastern decadence. This wasn't accidental. It was a calculated smear campaign designed to justify war and delegitimize a powerful female ruler. In 31 BCE, Cleopatra and Antony's combined forces faced Octavian's fleet at the Battle of Actium off the Greek coast. History records this as a decisive Roman victory, but the truth is more complex. Cleopatra commanded 60 warships of her own and funded the entire campaign. When she saw the battle turning against them, she made a tactical decision to break through Octavian's blockade with her fleet and Egypt's treasury intact, preserving her kingdom's wealth and military capacity. Antony followed her, abandoning his remaining forces. Roman historians portrayed this as cowardly betrayal, but Cleopatra was executing a strategic retreat to fight another day. She returned to Egypt and immediately began raising new armies and seeking alliances. She hadn't given up. She was regrouping. Unfortunately, Octavian followed quickly. When Octavian's forces reached Alexandria in 30 BCE, Cleopatra knew her options had run out. Antony, receiving false reports of her death, took his own life. Cleopatra tried one final negotiation with Octavian, but he made his intentions clear. She would be paraded through Rome in chains as part of his triumph celebration, a humiliating spectacle for the conquering general. For a proud ruler who had negotiated with Rome's greatest men as an equal, this fate was unacceptable. On August 10, 30 BCE, Cleopatra died by her own hand, most likely from poison, though legend says an aspi snake. She was 39 years old. Even in death, she controlled her narrative, denying Octavian his prize and choosing dignity over humiliation. This wasn't the act of a seductress, it was the final decision of a sovereign. After Cleopatra's death, Octavian became Augustus, Rome's first emperor, and history became written by the victors. Every account of Cleopatra that survived came from Roman sources, the very people who had defeated her and needed to justify that defeat. Acknowledging that a brilliant female strategist had nearly outmaneuvered Rome's greatest generals was politically impossible. So Roman historians transformed her into a cautionary tale, the dangerous foreign woman who used sexual manipulation instead of legitimate political skill. This narrative served multiple purposes. It explained how powerful Roman men could be defeated, reinforced Roman superiority over Eastern kingdoms, and reminded women of their proper subordinate place in society. For 2,000 years, we've been reading Octavian's propaganda, not historical fact. The real Cleopatra was systematically erased. Beyond the distortions, Cleopatra's real achievements are staggering. She ruled Egypt for 21 years, maintaining its independence during Rome's aggressive expansion when every other Hellenistic kingdom fell. She stabilized Egypt's economy, reformed the currency, and personally negotiated trade agreements. She commissioned building projects, supported the arts, and patronized the famous Library of Alexandria. She commanded armies and navies directly, unusual even for male rulers. She expanded Egypt's territory and influence across the eastern Mediterranean through diplomatic marriages, alliances, and military campaigns. She gave birth to 4 children while ruling one of the ancient world's most complex kingdoms. Most remarkably, she accomplished all this while navigating the treacherous waters of Roman civil wars that destroyed countless male rulers. History should remember her as one of antiquity's greatest monarchs. And so, after 2 millennia of distortion, we can finally see Cleopatra clearly. She wasn't the seductress of legend. She was a brilliant political strategist who spoke 9 languages, mastered economics and diplomacy, and commanded respect through intellect rather than beauty. She wasn't a manipulative foreign temptress. She was a capable ruler, fighting to preserve her kingdom's independence against an expanding empire. Her real story isn't about romance. It's about power, strategy, and a woman who refused to be anyone's subordinate. The legacy history owes Cleopatra is acknowledgement that one of antiquity's most capable rulers was systematically slandered because she was female, foreign, and ultimately defeated. In the end, Cleopatra's greatest tragedy wasn't her death. It was having her truth stolen by those who feared what she represented. The real Cleopatra deserves to be remembered not as a seductress, but as the last great pharaoh who nearly changed the world.